With Halloween just around the corner, in today's video I will be making all the holidays out of Lego, from Easter all the way to Christmas. So without further ado, Lego. Now this is going to be a long one, guys, so make sure to grab a snack and stay tuned. Now coming up in this video, you'll see scary movies made out of Lego, Christmas movies made out of Lego. We're going to start with Easter. Now Easter has a whole bunch of festivities that happen during that time. We'll be going to the root cause of Easter, and that is when Jesus died on the cross. So here's the build for that, and it turned out great. Obviously this is a more serious build than the rest of this videos, but I thought it would be good to put here just so that we remember what the true meaning of Easter is, that Jesus died on the cross and rose again for our sins. A solid build right here, but if you guys wanted to see an Easter bunny, I also do have this Lego set, so if that satisfies you for Easter, there's that as well. But now, let's move on to some scary movies out of Lego. Now, the first build we'll be doing is of Leatherface, otherwise known as Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And now, starting with an intense one. The main things I wanted to capture here is definitely Leatherface as a minifigure, since obviously that doesn't exist in Lego. And then also this cool wheat field technique that I've seen in a few Lego builds. So, let's get building. And well, here it is. Let's start with the minifigures. Leatherface looks really cool, especially with this big chainsaw. I used the scarecrow face actually, and I think it looks pretty nice. This is the back of him. I added the blue arms to make it a little more accurate. And then if you take off his chainsaw, that's what the front of his print looks like. Honestly, the second guy, I just made it a civilian that's running away screaming from him. He's wearing this nice suit, nice little 360 here. But yeah, let's get to the build. Here it is. I set it on, like I said, a little farmhouse with a wheat field. Now, the cool technique I used here, as you can see, is where I pointed these Technic bricks sideways, put in a whole bunch of little tan Technic pins, and then you can just plop it right in place, and it looks pretty good. Now, here's the interior of the house. Nothing that crazy. You got the shovel, a few things in a bin, and then the bed. Overall, I kind of really like this build. It's one of my favorites in this video, but let's go on to the next build. But before we do that, actually, let's clear off the rest of this table, because hopefully by the end of this video, this whole thing can look like a Halloween village. Stay tuned for that. On to the second build, Nightmare Before Christmas. Definitely not as scary as the last one. And also, Lego just made a set for this movie, as you can see up on screen, and I'll be trying to capture that iconic hill. So let's get building. And well, here it is. Now, the hill was a little hard to make, but Jack Skellington looks pretty solid. That's because it's the one from the Disney CMF. Here's also a 360 of that. His printing looks pretty good, and he also comes with this cool little bin. But yeah, the hill is simple on both sides, and I also added some pumpkins for the nice scenery. Definitely one of the most simple builds of the video, but I thought this one had to be made, and I like it. Let's add it to the village. On to the third build. Now this one is another intense, scary movie, and that is Saw. For this build, I was going to try to make one of the most iconic traps, which is like the reverse bear trap, because of this new piece that just came out in a Lego Star Wars set. So, let's get building. And well, here it is. It definitely turned out pretty good. Now let's get to the minifigures. So first off, I got this girl here with the trap on. I also added these studs around her hands to maybe look like handcuffs. And some of you might be saying, why is she bald? Well, that's because the hairpiece doesn't fit on the trap. But besides her, we also have the main evil guy from Saw that's responsible for all the traps. Here's a cool feature I made with the door. But back to the build. Some of you might be wondering, where's the actual Jigsaw guy? And well, technically in this scene he was just on the TV, so that's what I made. I made his face on the TV, and in my personal parts collection I couldn't find a perfect face to replicate it, so this is the best I could do, but I still think the hair works and it's good enough. Overall, I like this build, especially because the trapdoor and the minifigures. Now let's add it to the village, and moving on to the fourth build, that being Chucky. Chucky is a classic horror movie and a lot of people's favorite one, so I had to do this one justice. Starting off with the minifigures here, we got Chucky, of course. In my opinion, he turned out the best out of almost any of the minifigures. I gave him mid-legs, and also, funny enough, his sweater comes from a Sesame Street character, so that's a bit ironic. But besides his two faces he has, I also made this other version from later movies where he has like a burnt up face. This one definitely looks more creepy, but it's cool that you have both options there. Then I also made the mom. This minifigure is pretty simple, but onto the build. The build here I'm pretty proud of. It's just honestly a living room. I used a lot of cool techniques for the shelf with putting some of these tile plates sideways, and then there's a couch there as well, and this cool little lamp that uses a Minecraft head actually. Then just set the minifigures up and you got a pretty cool scene from the movie Chucky. Added to the village. And moving on to the 5th build of the video. Now before we get into this 5th build, remember, stay till the end to see the whole village, but also I'm going to be adding an extra build to the final movie. Stay tuned for that because it's the biggest build of the video and it's pretty epic. But the 5th movie is It. I'm sure many of you have been waiting for this. It's probably the most iconic movie in this video, but let's get building. And well, here it is. Of course, we're going to start with the minifigures, that being Georgie. Here he is in his whole yellow poncho. Probably one of my most accurate ones of this video. And then also we got Pennywise. I did decide between a few hairstyles because he has pretty wacky hair, so here were those ones. But I kept this one at the end of the day, gave him the Joker face. I think he turned out alright for what LEGO offers minifig wise. And yeah, here's the actual build. You might be wondering, why is the build so high up if it's just like supposed to be the road and the sewer? But that's because I also added where you can see inside the sewer where there's a balloon, a stream of water, and then of course that's where Pennywise is. And well, oh snap, there goes Georgie's arm. That is sad, but let's add that one to the village and moving on to the 6th build. This one being Nightmare on Elm Street. This one I was really excited about because the Freddy Krueger minifigure looks really solid in my opinion, but let's get building. And here are the minifigures, starting off with Freddy Krueger. I gave him this nice Christmas sweater because that fits the red and green scheme of his sweater. And then the face print actually and hat combo really tied this thing all together. I think this one looks really solid. The other minifigure I added is just a screaming kid, but the scene I recreated was when Freddy Krueger was like falling from the ceiling and it looked like the bed and him was on fire, so that's what I did. Sorry if I don't know too much about it, but I think it looks pretty cool and pretty accurate to the scene I saw on YouTube. Yeah, this one looks pretty solid, and let's add it to the village. To the final build of the video, and that being from The Shining. More specifically, the Here's Johnny scene.
Here's Johnny!
This one is probably one of the most iconic ones in film. And like I said earlier, there will be an extra build, so stay till the end, but let's get building. Now at first glance, this looks like not much, but before we get to that, let's get to the minifigures. Johnny right here with his axe and super angry face. He does have another face, but I chose to go with this one because it's more accurate to the scene. And then his wife that I gave her like this blue nightgown type thing that looks accurate to the scene. And then of course a screaming face with knife because she's scared for her life. Now add them back into the scene and well, here it is recreated in LEGO. But I did add a variant of Johnny. Here that one is. And if you've ever seen The Shining, you might know how it ends. He goes into this big maze and freezes to death. So here's that maze. Yeah, pretty simple build here, just a whole bunch of blocks on a base plate, but I thought it'd be cool to add this part. And well, that is all the scary movies I made out of LEGO. But anyways, whoa. Did you guys hear that? What was that? Oh, it was just Bob. Wow, good one. Comment, Bob is always watching if you made it to this point. Just confuse the other guys if they didn't watch this far.
Boy, there were some good ones in there. Remember to comment below which one was your favorite. But now, after Halloween's all finished up, it's time to move on to Christmas time. Christmas time is here. Why are you still filming? Go to the movies.
We'll call him Rudolph.
Now for the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer build, I want to do something a little more simple and kind of creator-esque for that Lego theme. My main job with this build was just to build Rudolph because he's the main character of that movie, and throughout this video my builds will slowly be getting bigger. Now for this, I had this specific leg design, so in order to achieve this I had to actually build the whole thing upside down. What I mean by that is the studs are actually facing downwards, so when you actually see the top of the model, everything is facing down. Overall, I think this build actually turned out pretty nice. My favorite part being probably the face, just don't mind the other eyeball. The little ears and little antlers for Rudolph, I think looks pretty great, and he actually looks pretty close to the actual Rudolph in the movie. And this has always been one of my favorite Christmas movies, so that's why I included it. Now let's go to the Christmas special is actually because the music in it is my favorite Christmas music. I know that sounds kind of funny, but that's the truth. So for this build, there's not much to go off of. You could have either done like the play, I guess, or the ice rink, but what I chose to do was when Charlie Brown gets his little Charlie Brown tree, of course. So this build is more for the minifigures than really the build, but here's the build. It's just one of those small, pretty common trees that Lego put out a few years ago. And I also made a little place for Woodstock and Snoopy, his little doghouse, of course. And for Snoopy, I decided to just go with a dog minifigure. I know I could have made one brick built, but kind of would have been bigger than the actual minifigure kids, so I thought the dog works. But here's a rundown of all the figures. We got, of course, Charlie Brown, Linus, Lucy, Pigpen, one of my favorites, and Peppermint Patty. Whole bunch more from the cast and crew, but for these, I just did basically the main colors they're wearing, with a hairpiece that looks somewhat reasonable for them, and then the short legs because they're all kids. And at the end of the day, I just put them all around the tree, and I think it looks pretty nice for a little Christmas vignette. Now, the next movie after Charlie Brown is gonna be How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea.
Now, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a classic still today, and actually the one I'll be making a mock of is the 1966 version. I know the Jim Carrey one is beloved by many, but actually as a kid it scared me.
The Grinch.
So I never really liked that one. And then the new one that came out a few years ago is alright, but it's not as good as the classic in my opinion. So what I'll be trying for this build is to build the Grinch's sleigh that he has the whole sack of presents he stole from all the Who's. So for this design, I originally was going to go off of the Lego Santa Claus sleigh, but then when I looked back at actually the source material, I'm like, oh wow, his is definitely not like that. It's more like one of those old-fashioned sleds, if you know what I mean. So I redesigned that, and here is what the base model looks like. I think it looks pretty good. And then with the rest of the red pieces I was using on the red Santa sleigh, I changed that into a big sack for, of course, his sleigh. I think this turned out pretty good, and now we just have to get the Grinch minifigure and, of course, his dog. His dog I just used an ordinary one from a Lego City set. Works pretty fine. And then for the Grinch, I don't have, I guess, the correct green color. Green Goblin's face might work better for this. I saw that in a few other mocks, but I used one of the Crocs from the Chima Lego sets, and I think with the smile, it still works for the Grinch. And overall, I also thought this one turned out pretty good, and it might be my favorite by far so far. So now let's head to probably my second favorite Christmas movie of all time, and that is Elf.
Sorry.
Now for the Elf builds, I decided to do actually two because my original plan for it was to make the "Bye Buddy, I Hope You Find Your Dad" scene.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
Thanks, Mr. Narwhal.
But I completely forgot about that when I actually made my second build for it. So I'll start with this one. Now for the narwhal, it was pretty simple. I just stacked a few bricks up and then made a little smiling face with an eyeball because that's basically what he is. And I put him around this nice little ocean build. It's supposed to have little glaciers to look like he's in the Arctic Ocean. And I think it turned out pretty cute. Here's also the Buddy minifigure I will be using. This was the closest hat I could use to get his elf hat with the hair. Sadly, you don't really see his hair here, but I think the outfit still looks pretty good with his yellow tights and all. Now though, for the second build after the narwhal one, we got Gimbals. Now, for me, this was one of my favorite scenes growing up because it shows him building with Legos, and that's what I love doing, of course. So we had to add that in to the build. I also put these gray walls just around it to make it feel like part of the store. And then the next thing after the Lego table, I will be adding just a shelf that looks like it has nice little presents because it's Christmas time. The last thing that was important for me to add was Santa's chair that he greets everyone in because that's one of the funniest scenes in the movie, in my opinion.
Okay, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town. Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him.
Now, all that's left to do is just add a little streamer and add Buddy, and then boom, you got Gimbals with Buddy the Elf from the Elf movie. I think this one also turned out pretty great, and now it's time for the build that maybe all of you have been waiting for. That is my Home Alone build. So, let's get into this. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I actually don't own the Home Alone set because it's $350, but I do own Harry Potter's 4 Privet Drive. Now, obviously, there's a big size difference, so it will just be kind of a part of the McAllister home, but I'll still be trying to add nice traps and all this fun stuff in. Now, the first thing I had to do was actually swap out the roof because the roof on 4 Privet Drive is this black tiley looking thing, but actually on the McAllister home, it's this white that has these two windows that pop out, so I tried to incorporate that as best as I could. The next thing that I had to do was change out the blue stairs for red stairs, because in their house it's actually red, not blue like in Harry Potter. And then the last thing that actually was a pretty big hassle was I had to change all the brick on the outside from this tan / beige color to a brown, because that's what the McAllister home is. After that, I can now finally show you the minifigures. So here's my custom Kevin. I think it looks pretty good, and I even gave him the same hat that the Lego set gave him. And then of course we have the Sticky Bandits. Both of these guys look pretty good. I used the Qui-Gon Jinn face for this one. Both of these guys look great. Now the best part of this build, in my opinion, it's time to add the traps. Now with little room, I could barely do much, but I did add the ice in front of the stairs at the front, which I also did add that stairs in because that wasn't on the set before. I think this looks good. And then I swapped out the doorknob for orange one because he burns his hand on that, of course. But when I was originally envisioning this, I was like, well, I have to do one of the big traps, and I couldn't go without doing the paint bucket one. So I did that. I added this Lego rope piece connected to what I made into, in my opinion, what looks like a paint bucket. And it works out perfectly because Kevin can stand at the top of the stairs as he throws down the paint buckets at those Sticky Bandits. So guys, in the comments below, tell me which one of these was your favorite builds. Wow. Don't Christmas movies just put you in that mood? But we aren't finished with Christmas just yet, because now it's time for making the Christmas story
out of Lego. Starting off with the wise men with their frankincense, gold, and myrrh. I think these guys look great, and I kind of tried to go for the same type of look I did when I made them in my Bible video with the purple, blue, and I think they look great. Then we got Mary. I gave her this like hood and cape just because I thought maybe that would fit her character more. And then of course we got Joseph as well. I gave him this like kind of farmer looking aesthetic. And then baby Jesus. I couldn't find my actual Lego babies, so I just did this one that looked like a little kid face, and then 2 studs for the body. Now we can get into the animals. I included a little bird here, a horse, and a pig. Now to the build itself, it's basically just a rocky base that I put a whole bunch of tan pieces on top of, and then a small little shed type build, because if you didn't know, that's where Jesus was born. He was born in basically a barn because there was no room in any inn around the area and no one wanted to let them in. So baby Jesus was born in a barn in a manger, and a manger sounds nicer than what it is. It's like a trough for the pigs. That's why I included a pig. Yeah, I think this build is pretty cool. Ever since I was a little kid, I think I've always made small versions of the Christmas story in Lego. Wow, that build also turned out so awesome. I really hope, guys, this video put you in the mood for the holidays as we're coming up on the best ones. Halloween, then Thanksgiving, baby, and then why did I say baby? And then Christmas. But guys, tell me below if you enjoyed this video. It was a bit of a longer one, so I hope you got a snack or something to enjoy this one with. I know it's also been a minute since I posted. Obviously, you guys can tell I'm in college now, so it's been pretty busy, but hopefully I'll have more videos coming out soon for you guys, and I hope you've been missing the videos. I've been missing you guys, so yeah. But remember, as always, guys, to check out the second channel, Biblical Betterment. It'll be linked in the description below. If you have Instagram, you can go follow my Instagram, also linked below. But remember, guys, have a great day. God bless. Jesus loves you. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Bye.